Oklahoma's own News on 6 starts now with breaking news.
And we are following that breaking news here at 4 o'clock. It is certainly the big story of the day. John Grant scheduled to be put to death here at 4 p.m. after the Supreme Court rules to overturn his stay of execution. I'm Brian Dorman.
And I'm Shannon Russo. The Supreme Court's decision came in around 2 this afternoon, just 2 hours ago, paving the way now for the state's first execution in nearly 7 years.
Let's go live to Lori Fulbright. She's in McAlester with the fast-moving developments. Lori, this happening very, very quickly. The Supreme Court's decision coming down around 2:15, and in less than 2 hours' time now, this execution to be taking place as we speak, scheduled for 4 p.m. We know it's very formal and likely happened on time. From where you're at, Lori, are you able to tell anything that is happening inside the prison right now?
Oh, no, not at all. We are, as you can tell, outside.
All right, our Lori Fulbright live for us in McAlester. Lori, thank you so much for your coverage. We know you'll be there during this time. We'll catch back up with you at 5 o'clock. We also have team coverage coming up with Grant Stevens here in just a little bit. Tulsa County District Attorney, by the way, Steve Kunzweiler, he is here at our TV station. He will join us live in studio in just a few minutes. We'll talk about the events that have unfolded here over the past 24 hours. We'll discuss what a stay of execution even means, the court proceedings that have been happening, and if he is surprised by the decision made today by the U.S. Supreme Court. All that coming up. And after this quick break, I'm sitting down with Tulsa County District Attorney Steve Kunzweiler. Fast-moving developments this afternoon as the U.S. Supreme Court overturns the stay of execution for John Grant and Julius Jones. Stay with us. Oklahoma hasn't executed a prisoner since 2015 after a couple of flawed executions put the process on hold. You know that already. The news broke just after 2 o'clock this afternoon that the U.S. Supreme Court overturned the stay of execution for John Grant and Julius Jones. Here to break down these late-breaking details and the legal battle that has ensued is Tulsa County District Attorney Steve Kunzweiler. Steve, I can't thank you enough for coming by in short order today to help us process what's happening here.
Sure.
I want to start with the latest here, of course, which is John Grant, set to be put to death at the top of the hour. It's 4:12. It's scheduled for 4 o'clock, a process that we know takes a moment, but is very formal, and we could only assume that that process is unfolding right now. This execution comes after a stay of execution was granted just yesterday, of course, by the appeals court. That decision the U.S. Supreme Court overturned today, allowing for the state to proceed with this execution for Grant. Your reaction, Steve, to what's unfolded here over the past 24 hours?
As it often is, I go to where the victims are. This is as much a roller coaster ride for them as anybody else, and it takes an awful lot of preparation for them to anticipate that there's going to be these moments that the defense is going to be appealing and trying to do everything they possibly can to forestall what I would say is the inevitable. This defendant, like so many of them, have been through so many different layers of the appeal process. We've got Wade Lay, who's been down there since his murder in 2004 is 17 years ago, and he's one of these folks that we're going to be talking about whose time is up. And so I think about the victims and how it must have been for them last night, and only to today now it's back on. So it's not unusual. I've seen this unfold. It's unusual for a lot of us in the last 5 years because we haven't had an execution, but historically these things happen very frequently and very rapidly leading up to the execution date.
Let's chat about Julius Jones. Walk us through what this means now for him. He has a clemency hearing on Monday. Today's decision by the Supreme Court also allows him to be put to death November 18th. How critical is that hearing for him come Monday?
I would think that's his last gasp and last stop, and you know, a horrific murder. Right, and he went through the exact same process that Grant's gone through, and Mr. Lay and the other folks. They've all gone through that, and he's hoping against hope that the governor of state would grant him clemency, and obviously that's not up to the parole board to. They may make recommendations, but the governor doesn't have to follow that. So I'm sure he's anxious and hoping against hope that he might garner that, but the murder is no less horrific nor violent, and those victims deserve finality to their case.
You just touched on this, 5 prisoners, part of this appeal. What does yesterday's ruling mean for the 3 who were not granted a stay of execution? And does today's decision by the Supreme Court change anything for them?
No, each one of those cases is going to be looked at individually. What happens in this case has nothing to do with anybody else's case. They all have their own independent appellate counsel. And I'm confident while they may be monitoring what's going on in this case, at the end of the day, their case stands alone, and they're going to have to make whatever individual requests they're going to make to try and forestall the process. But as it appears now, their execution dates are moving forward.
It's been nearly 7 years now since Oklahoma has put a prisoner to death. Your thoughts on how this process has played out since 2015?
So obviously it was difficult at the time. We had a difficulty with the execution of the last prisoner, and I think it was right. I mean, when you do death penalty cases, it's been referred to as super due process. So it's always good to kind of step back and make sure that how things are being done, whether it's the review of the sentence or the administration of how the death sentence is going to be administered, that should be reviewed. So it didn't bother me that we should have reviewed that process, but ultimately we got to get back into the business of upholding Oklahoma law.
All right, Steve, I want to end, if I may, with John Grant. Anything that stands out to you with the events that have quickly unfolded here over the past 24 hours?
Once again, just the way I look at that is for the victims' families, they're finally going to get that final measure of justice that they've been waiting on for so long.
All right, Steve, thank you so much for being
Yes,
here
sir,
for us.
you.
We really appreciate it.
We continue to follow breaking news here at 4:30 as the U.S. Supreme Court overturns the stay of execution for John Grant. As we just mentioned, Grant was put to death about 10 minutes ago at 4:21. Thank you for staying with us this afternoon. I'm Shannon Russo.
I'm Brian Dorman. Oklahoma hasn't executed a prisoner, as you know, since 2015 after 2 flawed executions. Let's go live now to News on 6's Grant Stevens. He's live for us in McAllister, where some protesters have gathered ahead of today's execution. Grant? Time of death for John Grant, 4:21 p.m. We are waiting for an update that I'm told is coming here at any moment. This update will be from the Department of Corrections there outside of the penitentiary with information on how this unfolded. We're going to take that. Let's see if that's available now for us to be able to listen in. This is the Department of Corrections. As you can see, folks are filing in now. Let's listen in live here for an update from the Department of Corrections after the execution of John Grant.
11 witnesses in the...
All right, been listening in for the very latest from the Department of Corrections after the execution of John Grant. Time of death, 4:21. As you can hear witnesses there explaining what unfolded.
Right, and we heard from the Department of Corrections there were 11 witnesses in the room. Media witnesses do not automatically get to go in. They are drawn ahead of time. We're told Grant was wearing orange glasses and a gray shirt. Most notably, we just heard Brian, Grant yelled, "Let's go," several times before this execution started. And we heard that his last words were a lot of profanity-filled words.
Grant becoming the first person to be put to death in nearly 7 years since 2 botched executions in 2015. That press conference continuing to unfold if you want to listen in live on newson6.com. Let's get over to Station for traffic.